Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to the Rose Garden. I'm dropping in the garden today to give you a vibe session, wellness talk, and a little mantra talk. Those are the three hashtags I've created for this segment. So yeah, here we are. If you haven't subscribed to the garden, definitely head over to www.rgvyoga.com and subscribe to the newsletters. Every week I give you a different mantra to work with. You also find out about yoga events, guided meditations, deals, things of that nature, okay? So, for the last 2 weeks, I have been talking about the mantra I communicate and I understand. These are two mantras that are near and dear to my heart because I am a Cancer, and Cancers are sensitive. And in that, it makes it a little bit harder to communicate with us, and it makes us hard and it makes it hard for us to communicate with other people because we assume that people may take it the wrong way, or we may not know how to digest all of our thoughts and the thoughts that are being given to us on a particular subject matter or situation. So because of that, sometimes it's very, very hard to gain clarity with particular topics because we take things to heart. And I know I'm not the only one, and no, it isn't just restricted to Cancers in regards to being very sensitive people or sensitive beings, period, if you will. Okay? So with the mantra I understand, when I sent out the e-blast, I was basically saying that what is communication without understanding? It's absolutely nothing. If you cannot communicate on an effective level where the person isn't able to understand clearly what you are trying to say, and also if you are not communicating from a heart of understanding, then it makes it very hard to have a mature conversation about any subject matter. And that can be because when it gets to a point where the two parties disagree, we may result to, well, not Cancers, but we as a collective, as a people, we may resort to name calling or belittling or just shutting down altogether, leaving the issue unresolved. And a lot of us may be aware that Mercury recently just got out of retrograde, and people will always say, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, and you know, communication may be bad, cell phones this, electronics that. Well, in respect to that, in respect to that, it may do us a little bit more justice to look into our natal chart to understand just how Mercury affects our communication skills when it's direct, and also when it's in retrograde. I'm not the person for that, but you can definitely find somebody to go in depth about that, because that is not what this video is particularly about. So in regards to communication and having a clear understanding, like I just stated, it is very important to lead from a heart of understanding. What does that mean? It basically means that when we are trying to communicate about any subject level, it is important to listen. It's one thing to try to communicate something to somebody, but it's different when you're trying to communicate at somebody. Basically saying that you want to get out all of your facts, your knowledge, whatever wisdom you have obtained, or just your feelings in general. It's one thing to try to get those things across. However, we have to leave a clear platform for the other person to respond. And oftentimes we only want to communicate to get our point across, period. We do not want to hear what the other person has to say. We aren't receptive to it, and we clearly do not want to understand. And because we do not want to understand, we are leaving zero room for communication. And that's what talking is all about, communicating back and forth. Communication cannot just be one way. It takes two people to tango in everything. So if we're merely listening with no intent to understand, that means that we are only listening to respond. And there's absolutely nothing worse than listening to somebody respond to everything that you're saying only to negate or shoot you down. And because of that, that other person will definitely close up. And oftentimes, we may feel as though that person is toxic because they do not ever want to understand what we are saying. So sometimes we may have to ask ourselves, are we the person that's only listening to respond? And because of that, everybody around us feels that they can't talk to us, because when they do, the only thing that we are saying is to rebuttal what that person is saying to us. It's not on a level of trying to gain a common understanding. And that's how arguments get started, because we're only hearing things to respond to. So oftentimes, because of that, we can totally miss the big picture. We may have missed everything that person has said because we have literally picked out the bits and pieces that we don't want to hear, we don't agree with, or we just listen for things that sound disrespectful to us. And that's how we get heated, and that makes everything that we say triggering to the next person, because we're only responding to now get back at them because we heard something that was disrespectful to us. And we go through that cycle again of having an argument that probably could have been avoided if both parties listened from a heart of understanding. Started with the intent of wanting to talk to that person because we want to understand where each party is coming from. Now, on the other hand of the mantra, I communicate, that can mean for some of us that we just want to be better and more effective communicators. That could be because some of us get high anxiety when we have to talk to anybody, when we have to explain something, when we have to present something. So in that, we just use that mantra to empower us in a way. Basically, well, not basically, but we can probably use the mantra in a way that would go something like this: I communicate effectively. I communicate better. I can communicate. I will communicate better. And in that, we build ourselves up to a point where we feel more comfortable talking in front of a camera or talking to somebody. Coming from somebody that has a very strong speech impediment, I had to use the mantra I communicate just to start talking in front of a camera. Now, sometimes, of course, when I'm out presenting or even trying to explain some facts that I thought was cool to somebody else, I may start stuttering because in the back of my head, I'm afraid that they may not understand what I'm trying to say. So I shut myself down instantly. And that's another way that we find ourselves in arguments, because we may assume from the jump that that person just will not understand. So we may shut down, or we may just blow past whatever it is that we're trying to say. So using the mantra I communicate and I understand in a way that builds the other up allows us to start leading our conversations in a better way. And one of my favorite of the 4 agreements, I don't know what that sentence was going to sound like, but one of my favorite agreements from the 4 agreements is be impeccable with your words. My father always says to this day, say what you mean and mean what you say. It may sound easier said than done, but just making sure that every time you open your mouth to communicate something, trying to say something, you say what you mean and you mean what you say, because words have a lot of power. Oftentimes we will hear people say, oh well, words don't mean anything, or words aren't aren't that powerful. They are only powerful if we give them power. Well, that may be true, and that sounds all fine and dandy. However, the moment you speak something, you cannot take it back. No matter if you didn't mean it, no matter if it didn't hold that much weight to somebody, words have power, because once you say something, you can't just take it back. You can't delete it. Yeah, we may forget, but it may be etched in the back of somebody's memory if it hurt them or it empowered them in a way. Especially when you're speaking about somebody else, and especially if we're talking about ourselves. There's a quote by a wonderful author. Basically what she was saying was that when you speak things into the universe, it's like placing an order at a restaurant. When you place an order at a restaurant, you expect that order to come back to you exactly how you ordered it. Well, that's how we should treat the universe. The moment we say something, it will come back to us tenfold. So when we're speaking things into the universe, it is like we are placing an order. So if you say something about somebody, or say something to somebody, or if you're asking of something for yourself, you want to say what you mean and mean what you say. Make it plain, even when you're speaking it, because if it comes back how you requested it, the question is, will you be happy with that result? Communicating effectively isn't just about talking to other people. It's about how you speak to yourself, how you talk to yourself, and how you talk to and about other people as well. You want to have clarity and a clear understanding of what it is that you are asking of or for, and what you are saying. That is the mantra. I communicate and I understand.